Heihachi Mishima, the resurrected king of Iron Fist, rises up from the dead again to reclaim the Mishima Zaibatsu once and for all. Heihachi is a defensive powerhouse. With some of the highest damage in the game, Heihachi punishes mistakes hard, and he has a wide assortment of big, heavy-hitting strikes to bully opponents into slipping up. At close range, Heihachi is an intimidating presence who can lock opponents down in place. Whether on block or on whiff, Heihachi can punish any mistake to the fullest. Heihachi hurts, with both his standing and combo damage putting a massive dent in the opponent's life. Heihachi is terrifying once he has the opponent back up against the wall. Unique to Heihachi is the warrior instinct mechanic, which turns Heihachi into a bona fide boss character for one potentially crucial round. This old man just refuses to die. Several of Heihachi's key moves heal a lot of chip damage, allowing him to stay in the fight longer than most other characters. Heihachi doesn't really have much of a presence in the mid-range, so he has to be careful about working his way in to pressure the opponent. Heihachi demands perfection, with many just frames being integral to his game plan. He's also quite demanding to play mentally, with lots of moves that need to be used strategically. A lot of Heihachi's best moves are quite linear, being especially susceptible to sidestep left, so he'll have to readjust his pressure to catch stepping opponents with his underwhelming tracking moves. Heihachi's big lunging attacks hurt, but they also leave him wide open if they miss. Heihachi's best lows are all very unsafe, so while it can be intimidating to crouch or strike back against him, one good read can make this tyrant topple. The Electric Wind God Fist is the backbone of Heihachi's game plan. Like other Mishimas, this move does it all. Keep out, punishment, and approach. But Heihachi brings out its true potential, since he can follow up with pressure, and incorporate them into some of the most damaging combos in the game, even landing triple EWGF in one combo. As will come to be a running theme with Heihachi though, this can be sidestepped to the left. Another Mishima staple is Flash Punch combo, coming from a jab. If you see the first two hits connect, then you can easily finish the string to knock opponents down. If the first two hits are blocked, you can either go knock knock again, or sidestep first, making this a very versatile string. Do be careful though about finishing the string if it's blocked, since it's quite unsafe. Also, unique to Heihachi, this can wall splat for big damage. Demon Massacre is Heihachi's safest and arguably his most defining, important string. Again, starting from a jab, this high mid string can't be interrupted unless opponents commit to a power crush, a parry, or an extremely evasive move. Even though it leaves Heihachi at a slight disadvantage when blocked, when paired with Rashomon, which looks very similar but leaves Heihachi at an advantage, Aishomon, an evasive low, sidestep, and the transition into Wind God Kamae, It opens up a world of mind games. This string has several follow-ups, but the only one of note is Demon Basara. This whole string connects on counter hit, but the ender is unsafe, so use with caution. This can't be hit confirmed, but it can be whiff confirmed, so the best way to utilize it is after a sidestep. If you notice that you're interrupting the opponent's jab string, then follow up with the headbutt ender. This is pretty tricky, but really encapsulates how subtle and strategic it can be to play Heihachi. Let's cover Rashomon in a bit more detail. As mentioned, this adds another layer to Heihachi's Demon Massacre pressure, since it looks like the second hit, but is advantageous on block. Though, savvy opponents can distinguish through the slight timing change and orange chip damage glow. New to Tekken 8, Rashomon features a unique mechanic called the Just Frame Release. Rashomon has effectively 4 variants: the regular uncharged attack, a somewhat lenient charged release that knocks down, a similar just frame release with yellow sparks and increased damage, and finally, a fully charged version that guarantees follow-ups and leaves opponents up close and personal on block for continued pressure. An interesting mechanic is that by landing the just frame versions of Rashomon, either on block or hit, Heihachi can heal a significant chunk of grey health back. Think of this like an Estus flask. Depending on the situation, you might even want to change your combo routes to incorporate as many just frames as possible. Speaking of, Rashomon is a major combo tool, since the charge versions tailspin aerial opponents. This move is extremely linear though, and the more you charge, the more time it takes to recover. Aishamon is Heihachi's power low. This deals solid damage, but is very punishable on block and quite linear. If opponents are really looking out for this, then they can block it on reaction. And because Heihachi is also a bit of a goofball, he shouts out Ashi, Japanese for leg, making it easier to react to. However, since the start of the animation closely resembles Rashomon, with some conditioning it can be actually very hard to spot. On hit, it pushes opponents away, making a lot of Heihachi's faster mids miss, but so do the opponents, creating an interesting situation. Some moves like the new Rao Thrust will reach though, so there are options. Speaking of, Rao Thrust is Heihachi's mid approach tool, and also a heat engager. It's somewhat similar to Jin's Demon Paw or Kazuya's Devil Fist, but has much less range. This is easy to sidestep though, so be sure to mix up the timing with wave dashing. What it lacks in range, it makes up in speed. So with good execution, this can be used both in combos and pressure, though again, be careful not to be stepped. Right splits kick is another Mishima staple, and Heihachi boasts the best one. This stands as the pillar of Heihachi's close range pressure. Very advantageous on block, forces crouch, and with little to no pushback, meaning it can be used repeatedly. If opponents dare to crouch, this gives guaranteed follow-ups, which are especially damaging near the wall or in powered up states, which we'll cover later. And on counter hit, it knocks down for damaging follow-ups. This can also transition into Wind God's Kamae, and while a little risky, it vastly increases the reward on crouching opponents, and on block, you can threaten with mix-ups if the opponent is properly conditioned to sit still. Right split kick's main weakness is, you guessed it, linearity, so be careful about throwing this out too freely. The Muso series are Heihachi's go-to mid pokes. Using it by itself is the safest option. This has good range, but as is a running theme with Heihachi, it's quite linear. Despite not being very rewarding, it starts his offense on hit, but Heihachi can't really keep his pressure up if it's blocked, so you're really encouraged to go for the string extensions. Muso Palm Strike ends in a high, so it can be risky, but it is a natural combo, and the second hit intercepts attacks, even power crushes. Muso Tekken ends in a mid and has 3 varying layers of charge. Uncharge is used to catch opponents who might crouch Muso Palm Strike, but it is unsafe on block. There's also a generous, just frame version that still combos and is safe on block, but can be interrupted. Similar to the just frame versions of Rashomon, this also recovers a significant amount of chip damage. Finally, the fully charged version doesn't combo and is easy to interrupt, but Wall Splats deals decent chip damage and leaves Heihachi up close and personal with a slight advantage so you can continue pressure. Hammer Punch is a big chunky mid that's often used to keep highly evasive moves in check. Afterwards you can go into a crouch or a mid extension with Hammer Beating. This combos on hit and scores a knockdown follow-up if the opponent tries to interrupt. Unusually for a natural comboing mid-mid string, this is also safe on block. Hammer Beating can be delayed, but it's very risky, and can also go into Thunder God's Kamae, which we'll cover later. Again, Hammer Punch's main weakness is linearity. Sacred Tree Fall is Heihachi's new low. It doesn't deal much damage, leaves Heihachi at a slight disadvantage on hit, and doesn't have any evasion. But it fills up two gaping holes in Heihachi's game plan. Firstly, it's a low that isn't terribly punishable on block. Only Kazuya and Eddie can launch this. Secondly, it's quite hard, though not impossible, to sidestep to the left. The classic Mishima left splits kick. This is a mid-launcher that's completely safe on block and forces crouch. At this point, it probably doesn't even need to be mentioned that it's very linear. Heihachi's lows aren't the most threatening, but as with other Mishimas, it can be used to mix up with Hell Sweep. Speaking of, Heihachi's Hell Sweep is quite unique. The first thing to note before anything though is that this tracks well, covering Heihachi's main weakness. As with other Mishimas, Hell Sweep is a low you can't react to, but is very punishable on block. Unlike the rest of the family, Heihachi's one doesn't knock down, at least not initially. Instead, the threat comes from the powerful follow-up options. It can go into more sweeps that are borderline safe on block, and launch as long as at least two connect in a row. Any of the sweeps will launch if they connect on counter hit. There's also the mid option, Tsunami Kick, which can now go into Wind God Kamae, but be careful, this option is really unsafe on block, at least outside of heat, which we'll cover later. Heihachi's Hell Sweep really shines though when only the initial sweep is used, as it gives incredible advantage on hit, setting up a myriad of dangerous frame traps. Lightning Crush is a very versatile mid-knee attack that's best used in the mid-range. This has great range, works well against reversals due to being a knee, pushes back on block to shove opponents towards the wall and create spacing traps, gives Heihachi tremendous advantage on hit, is used in combos, and most notably is the best way to transition into Wind God Kamae. Notably, Hasai Rengeki combos from Lightning Crush, also making it one of the best ways for Heihachi to get into heat. Its main weakness is, linearity. New to Tekken 8 is Indra's Kick. This is your go-to mid for frame traps as it's safe on block and leads to big combos on counter hit. It's also strong at the wall since it wall splats. Perhaps the most important feature though about Indra's Kick is that it catches sidestep left, Heihachi's weak side. As should be clear already, sidestep left is a big weakness for Heihachi, so be sure to use this to keep steppers in check. If the opponent then starts stepping to the right, you can use Electric Wind Godfist and Lightning Crush. While Indra's Kick has long range, be really careful about using this in the mid-range, since it's so easy to punish if this misses. On a side note, I love how this kick quickly snaps back if it connects, but Heihachi stumbles around and loses his footing if it misses. It's a great attention to detail, and I hope Tekken has more of this kind of stuff in the future. Demon Godfist is a classic Heihachi move. This is a big, chunky, Hail Mary mid-launcher that has massive reach and goes under a lot of highs. It also hits grounded, so is a good move to use when the opponent is on the floor. On block, this is quite unsafe, but similar to Death Fist, has a lot of pushback, so some characters can punish it better than others. Strictly speaking, this is very linear, but it's actually pretty tricky to step to Heihachi's weak side. Throw this out occasionally to show opponents you're not afraid to use it, but not too much. Oniyarai is a fast mid-mid string. While it's unsafe on block, there's a massive delay between both hits, and they still combo. This means it can be used for mental or fake frame advantage. If the second hit connects on counter hit, then the opponent flaps backwards in this hilarious face-first spin, guaranteeing a Demon Godfist. Even on normal hit though, if the opponent does anything other than a quick stand, then it's also guaranteed. This means punishing from Chrome Dome to Oniyarai can result in tons of damage if the opponent doesn't get up correctly. Hooking Crescent is a fast but subpar homing high used to keep sidestep in check, so it's an important move for Heihachi. There's a high and a mid follow-up, both the natural combos but carry risk, as the high can be ducked and the mid is unsafe on block. Notably though, if opponents try to intercept the high, it gives a combo on counter hit. Heaven's Merciless Wrath is Heihachi's panic move when under pressure, and it's actually really good. This naturally catches high or mid punches and kicks, is a heat engager, and stays out for a decent amount of time before you can interrupt it. Though it's risky, you can even occasionally use it when on the offensive to bait responses, since the follow-up comes out automatically. Be careful though, since if the opponent is on the ball, they can either interrupt it before it strikes or, yes, sidestep it. Wind God's Kamae is mainly used to open up defensive opponents after they've been conditioned to sit still. It transitions from some of Heihachi's most important moves. Right Splits Kick, Lightning Crush, Demon Massacre, Back Fist Combo, and Tsunami Kick. Hasai Rengeki and God Tetsui are the fastest options, so naturally can be used to interrupt counterattacks. Both are natural combos, Hasai Rengeki going into heat and ending in a high, while God Tetsui knocks down and ends in a mid to discourage ducking, though it is unsafe on block. These both also combo from Lightning Crush. If you want to stay safe without going into an unfavorable high-mid guessing situation, you can also hit confirm into the string ender. Hidden Wind Godfist looks like a mid-electric Wind Godfist, but is a little different. It launches but is just punishable by jab strings, though it is tricky. It's also quite evasive, so can be used to go under jabs trying to interrupt the transition, which leads to a full combo for a sort of minimal risk. This is also a staple in combos and is actually guaranteed from right splits kick on crouching opponents. Getter Stomp is a fast and not ludicrously unsafe low, great for Heihachi standards, that deals good damage but stops his momentum even on hit. You'll want to mix this up with Wind Godfist. God Hellaxle might seem rather sluggish and useless at first, but it does have its uses. Mainly, it keeps Heihachi's offense going while dealing moderate chip damage on block. It's also a full-on launching mid that leads to better combo routes than Wind Godfist. Its true strength, though, lies in how it goes over lows, which is actually pretty important, since a generic low kick beats all options if Heihachi goes into the stance from certain blocked attacks, like Demon Massacre. And if Hellaxle takes care of lows and throws interrupting the stance, then Tengu's Wings is the go-to option to make sure opponents don't interrupt it with mids, highs, or even have the brilliant idea to try and sidestep. It's an unsafe but homing power crush that's used to brute force through mashers. Firestarter, Twisted Firestarter, is an unbreakable homing throw. Use this in tandem with Getter Stomp to open opponents up, or also to deal with power crushes or steppers. This isn't very damaging, but gives Heihachi a lot of advantage to continue his pressure. Firestarter becomes more dangerous in heat as it now transitions into Thunder God's Kamae. Speaking of which... Thunder God's Kamae is a bit more situational than Wind God's Kamae, but very powerful when applied at the right times. The moves are quite slow and there's no power crush, meaning you generally only use it on hit. It transitions from hammer beating, nail beating, fully charged or true Rashomon, when in heat Firestarter, and heat smash on block, which is probably the best situation. Thunder Cutter is perhaps the biggest threat from this stance. It's a homing high that gives a chunky combo on hit, and guard breaks on block for a guaranteed jab string, though this does scale heavily. This is really scary at the wall though, since Flash Punch wall splats. Thunder Broken Toy is an unbreakable throw that deals pretty decent damage, and the go-to for opening the opponent up outside the wall. Spinning Demon is literally just regular Hell Sweep, a whole lot of mix-ups like we explained earlier, and is the low threat from this stance. Not very damaging by itself, but the stance transition can be a good place to capitalize on its counter-hit launching properties. Once you've conditioned the opponent to duck these moves, then you can start going for the mid options. Hidden Thunder Godfist is a big power mid that's slightly unsafe on block. It deals tons of damage, knocks down, and evades jabs just like Hidden Wind Godfist in Wind God Kamae. This is also used as a follow-up for all counter-hit knockdowns, since it does exactly the same damage as Perfect Omen, but without any execution. Jichin Sai is a slow but safe mid that deals chip damage and knocks down, leaving the opponent head towards face down, one of the worst situations on the floor. Overall, it offers less reward, but less risk than Thunder Godfist. Heihachi isn't particularly scary when heated up. Its best use is to extend combos. Also, Heihachi has to pop heat in order to gain access to Warrior Instinct, which we'll cover later. Thunderous Battering Ram is Heihachi's heat-exclusive move. This is a power crush that starts up fast and absorbs for a long time. It also tornado flips aerial opponents and can be useful in niche grounded situations, especially near the wall. Rending Battering Ram is good for inflicting ground damage, but not much use out of that. Soaring Anvil Smasher is okay. A bit sluggish, but it is a homing mid that deals good damage and allows Heihachi to keep pressuring on block. His Heat Smash has short range and, true to form, terrible tracking. On hit, you can choose to either break the floor or the wall. On block, you can either go into Thunder God Kamae or not. The ground-hitting version of the Heat Smash also sets up some powerful wake-up games. If the opponent tries to get up, then Iron Palm is guaranteed. If they stay on the floor though, then Stomp is guaranteed. Combined with the Heat Smash itself, this results in huge damage. Probably the best thing about Heihachi's Heat is that Wind God Kamae now has a built-in high and mid attack reversal, with some tricky setups similar to Reina. Also, Firestarter now shifts into Thunder God Kamae for continued pressure. Exclusive to Heihachi is Warrior Instinct, which basically turns him into a boss character for one round. In order to activate this, you need to have entered Heat at least 3 times during a match. Upon activation, it immediately heals Heihachi for a bit of true health and significantly adds to the amount of existing recoverable health. It's risky to just throw it out though, because you can whiff and get punished. It's much better to do it close up to the opponent since it's advantageous on block and can even wall splat. For the rest of the round, it increases the amount of health Heihachi can recover, whilst also reducing the opponent's recoverable health when being hit. Flash Punch combo has increased damage and huge knockdown travel, meaning it can wall splat from miles away. Demon Basara basically becomes his Tekken 7 Rage Drive. The headbutt powers straight through reversals, and it can also be used as an incredibly damaging spike combo ender into a follow-up. Demon Breath gets massively increased damage and now knocks down, allowing for a follow-up into Demon Godfist. Speaking of which, Demon Godfist has increased damage and gains ludicrous range. Reverse Muso Renken becomes a full-on launcher. Don't just throw this out though because it's very unsafe, but it means Heihachi can now launch punish minimally unsafe moves from Chrome Dome. Left Splits Kick gets great chip damage and more damage when it hits. It's now also plus on block, which combined with the Force Crouch makes it really strong. The first Hell Sweep is less punishable on block and does not stagger, making one sweep into Tsunami Kick now completely safe, which is kind of bonkers. This makes the mix-up become very real, since you're basically guaranteed to enter the second layer of sweeps. The first sweep also deals chip damage, so the answer isn't even blocking it, but to low parry. This becomes a total nightmare. And finally, Thunder Godfist and Wind Godfist from their respective stances become safe and power through reversals. Heihachi has some of the strongest block punishment in the game. So in order to capitalize on this, you'll need a pretty in-depth understanding of all the movesets in Tekken 8 and how punishable unsafe moves are. This is of course no mean feat and will take a long time to accumulate, but it's also one of the many reasons why Heihachi is such a complex and satisfying character to play at a high level. Another layer of complication is that Heihachi's optimal punishment is highly versatile and situational, as opposed to the more standardized punishment structure of other characters. Heihachi can choose from quite a few options. For example, from a jab, he can either use Flash Punch combo for a knockdown or wall splat, or Back Fist combo into a stance mix-up with Wind God Kamae. In open ground, Chrome Dome to Oni Arai leads to big damage and powerful wake-up pressure. But near the wall, you have the option to combo from Chrome Dome into Rapid Crush combo for a wall splat. Compared to previous Tekken games, Heihachi has a much easier time punishing highly unsafe moves. From standing, Gokotai Rampage is your go-to, and for closing rounds after blocking a Rage Art. Meanwhile, from crouch, Ascension Upper pops opponents into the air for minimal execution. In the past, Heihachi had to squeeze in a very well-timed Electric Wind Godfist. All in all, punishment is a big part of Heihachi's game, so optimizing him is going to take a lot of experience. Good luck! Here are some of Heihachi's most important combo routes from his most important launches. These are just the essentials. There are a lot more, of course, so please check out the description for a more comprehensive list. In the meantime, here are some Heihachi haikus. Big fall explosion. Tossed into a volcano. Dead again? No way. Wife with devil blood. Throw son off cliff. Shoot grandchild. Father of the year. Wave dash and hell sweep. Electric wind Godfist punch. Angry old man. Kuma is my pet. He is loyal and stupid. Blue balls for Panda. Kazuya and Jin. Lars, Reina, and many others. I have been busy. Some idiot thought I would come back a robot. Jack Hachi? Oh, please. Need more money now. Buy my stage? Great idea. Don't ask me for shit. Heihachi is one of the most extreme cases of risk-reward in Tekken 8. His moves are either very linear or have poor recovery, but on the other hand, his damage potential is through the roof. Heihachi's personality really shines through in his gameplay, not only with his powerhouse moveset, but also his unique mechanics. The old man's tenacity and refusal to die is represented through his unique healing mechanic, while his status as a tyrant and a boss character through warrior instinct. Though Heihachi isn't very good at playing small Tekken, and probably too risky to make a huge impact on the competitive scene, he's one of the most balanced and interesting characters on the roster. Thank you very much for watching. It's been a while since we put out a video like this, so we hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. If you want to support future projects like this, please consider supporting us on Patreon. That's it for Heihachi Essentials. Up next is Archetypes Tekken 8 Edition.